Welcome to Permission to Shine, the space where high-achieving women like you come to peel back the layers, overcome what's been holding you back, and rise into your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Sherisse Bisram, inner power activation leader and intuitive healer, and a woman who knows what it means to look like she's thriving on the outside, also while feeling disconnected on the inside. This podcast is here to remind you, you didn't come here to just perform, you came here to lead with your soul. Your obstacles, they're invitations to expand. And your power, it was never outside of you. It's been waiting within you all along. Each week we'll dive into honest conversations, healing insight and soul-led strategies to help you stop self-sabotaging, reclaim your light and lead your life, your business and your relationships from deep-rooted truth. So if you're ready to rise with grace, softness and fire, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hello, my loves. Happy full moon in Scorpio. Now, I haven't actually been recording episodes predominantly about the moons, but I feel like today feels important because I know that a lot of the women that I've spoken to, this Scorpio energy is bringing up a lot of stuff for them. And I really wanted to hone in on that because I really feel like this full moon in particular is closing out old cycles. And it really is the end of a chapter in your life, a pattern that you've been repeating or something that you just don't want to continue to do. And I feel like even more so because Scorpio is the death and rebirth energy. But then we have the sun in Taurus, which is about, the spring, the flourishing, the steady growth of a dream, a manifestation and all those things. So I really feel like the universe is saying to us that in order for you to grow sustainably or flourish undeniably, you have to make sure that you are clearing away the dead weight in the old cycles. You have to. And I know that a lot of women this week have really felt some shadow come up, whether that be insecurity, whether that be an old story that they used to tell themselves over and over again. Maybe it's a childhood wound or, a relationship pattern or something that's been in there, made apparent to them this week or even just this weekend alone. And so I just want to talk about it because I feel like, well, it takes away the pressure, right? If you know that everyone else is feeling this too, I think it makes it feel a little bit more, well, normalized, really. And I think that this is, the whole reason that I talk on the podcast, because I want you to know that life is lifing, and we're all feeling these things. And I noticed for myself that I was on my period in the week. And that was for me when I felt the peak of a bit of insecurity, a bit of, old behavior patterns coming up for me. And I had to really sit with it. And I feel like my lesson in this phase of my life, now I say this phase being the healing journey phase, because obviously prior to this part of my life, so let's say before 2020 or, including 2020, I was in survival mode. So it's only been the last 6 years that I've really been in this healing space. And what is my biggest lesson in this is always surrender. So I have a subconscious pattern of wanting to fix and wanting to control. That is just something that's ingrained in me through that, 20 years of, well, nearly 30 years of survival patterning. And so I have to keep interrupting that patterning by reminding myself that it's safe to let go, it's safe to surrender. And what does that even look like? I speak about surrender all of the time because it means taking our hands off of the wheel, but knowing the universe is driving, right? And our intention is what is the catalyst for that. And yes, sometimes we have to grab the wheel, but a lot of the time we don't allow ourselves to really be led, because we've always had to be the leader, right? And I feel like a lot of the ladies that I've spoken to over the last few days have had something come up. Now, this is all astrologically related. So for me, at the moment, my Scorpio is in my 4th house of home. That affects my ancestral lineage, childhood patterns, and also my home itself. And I've been speaking about how currently I'm having building work done in my house, and we had some problems with the builders. They left us basically with no functioning bathroom. So right now I'm having to drive across to my nan's to have a shower, which is luckily she only is 5 minutes away, but it's still an inconvenience, right? But the insecurities that have been coming up for me have been a little bit about abandonment. And so it was interesting for me to notice that for myself this week and sit with it, And I think that a lot of us are, especially me included, we're wired to find a solution and to fix it. But actually, sometimes the feminine attributes to this is the letting go. Now, one of the ladies that I had in my session yesterday, she was saying about how she is in a place in her life where she wants a family, but she also wants to run her business. And so those two notions together have been conflicting for her. And she's been trying to figure out how she can manage doing both things at once to the point where it's been overwhelming her. Now, this is a prime example of where our conscious mind is trying to control the outcome. We're trying to force something to happen. It's a bit like if you imagine a raging ocean trying to narrow itself into a small river. All of that water is going to overflow and it's going to be, yeah, just over the top. It's not going to stay in. There might be floods. There's all these things that would happen if you're trying to funnel this massive ocean into a small lane. And so this is a bit like what we're trying to do with what it is we want in our lives, especially if you have a big dream, right? I would say having a business and having a family are two really big, powerful things that can exist at once. The problem is us and how we're perceiving it. Because if you want to really see that happening in real life, go and have conversations with people right now in your world that are also business owners that are pregnant, like this is how we get ourselves out of it. And the thing is, our mind causes the rut. So, it's not wrong to feel that way. It's absolutely right because your mind believes whatever it's seen and heard and repeats over and over again. So if we take a different concept, for example, it could be that you're not happy with your body at the moment. It could be that you've noticed that over the last 6 months that you've kind of got a bit slack on exercising and you've been eating more sugary things because you're trying to get that dopamine hit, right? And so you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, this isn't how I want to look or be, right? And so you know that the thing that you need to do is more exercise or eat healthier or both. But instead of you actually just doing that, like, getting out more, moving your body more, making better choices with food, you will create a problem as to why you can't do it. So you might say that you don't have enough hours in the day. You might say financially that obviously healthier food costs more money, or that you're really busy because you've got lots of birthdays and things like that. But we always have a choice. And also, we can always override that subconscious patterning. And I would even say that that's conscious patterning because we're choosing the narrative of the problem or, the obstacle, I would say, because a lot of these things aren't necessarily problems. They're the obstacles that we're putting in the way for ourselves. And I always say the only obstacle we'll ever face is our own inner world, right? So I don't know if that's coming up for you. It could even be relationships and people in your life. That could also be something. And again, like if we keep focusing on the problem, on what the obstacle is, maybe you've got people in your life that aren't treating you very nicely, or you've been given and given and given and not had anything in return. That is all where we are choosing to give. Yes. Now, what we can't control is other people's emotions and how other people respond to us. But what we can be in control of is how we lead in that space. So, for example, if you're in a situation where someone always undermines you all of the time, you don't rise to it. You choose to not be in a conversation with that person. And I know it's quite difficult. I mean, I've been in these situations most of my life where I would get undermined by my family a lot, or just in general public. I think being a brown woman that speaks up, I'm always penalized for being aggressive. I was. And actually, funny enough, when I was at uni, I remember the first time when I did my BA, I remember one of the teachers was talking about the transatlantic trade, aka the slave trade. And they were talking about like who was the settlers before the British came. And I was like the indigenous people. I said it so many times, but because I'd always been quite loud and my voice was always heard, she chose not to listen to me. And she waited until someone else said it because their boyfriend was Jamaican. And I was like, yo, My family are from the Caribbean, man. Like, listen to me. But she chose not to because she thought I was being disruptive. And I had to accept, where I was going to go with that. And then after at the end, I did pull her up and say, "Excuse me, miss, I actually am from this location. And so, you choosing not to listen to me is quite disrespectful." And then we kind of ironed it out, right? But the point of that is that, you know, I have been in situations most of my life where, um, yeah, I've not been listened to. I've not been taken, I'd say taken seriously, maybe one thing, but also friends misusing my kindness and all of those things. So, what I'm talking you through here when I'm saying we have a choice is because I've lived through that. It's not because I'm giving you some, you know, advice that's unsolicited. Like, this is actually from lived experience. And I think that when we realize how much power we have, that is where we get to stop being a victim and we get to start being, the leader of what it is we want to create in our lives going forward. And I know that that sounds very matter of fact, but this is, I would say, the Taurus energy coming through here because if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you're always going to get the same results. And this Scorpio energy is bringing up all of this old stuff so you can cut through it and cut it off. And this is really it. So if you are in a situation right now, something feels difficult and old patterns come up and come forward, this is your invitation to get clear on what that is. So I'm going to give you some journal prompts right now because I feel like it's a great way of you being able to see for yourself where the issues are. Okay. So I would look at what is a pattern that keeps coming up for me that does not serve me anymore? What is a pattern that keeps coming up for me that does not serve me anymore? And then the next one, where am I sabotaging myself? Could be in the way you talk to yourself. It could be in, you not choosing to do the things that your body really needs, like more movement, more vegetables, that type of thing. It could be the people that you have in your life are a little bit toxic and it's time to cut them out. Could be that you don't like your job anymore. Where are these things in your life right now? The next one is, what is a story that I keep telling myself that needs to be rewritten? What is a story that I keep telling myself that needs to be rewritten? So that could be, like when people say, "Oh, I'm like a doormat, everyone walks all over me." That there is something that can be rewritten. And I love rewriting these timelines because they're my like favorite thing to do. But for example, if you thought that of yourself, you could say something like, "I've always given everything I have to everyone in my life. And I'm now realizing that I need to set stronger boundaries." That's it. You know, could be that I always go for the wrong guy or something along those lines. And then it's like, um, through my childhood experiences, wasn't treated very well. And as a byproduct, I kept choosing the man that felt familiar. Now I'm choosing to go for someone that makes me feel safe. So you can break these down into even smaller parts. And I do have a journal available on my website as well if you want to, look at that. And that's going to be really intricate. But equally, just drop me a DM. Like if something's coming up for you and you're like, "I don't know how to move through this," just let me know and I'll give you a journal prompt just via voice note. Because these are all really important things that we can do daily. I journal every single day because I want to know what it is my subconscious is thinking. And when you free write without thinking about what you're going to say, that's when it all comes forward. And it's a really great way for you to, self-identify. I feel like this is where the power is in all of my work. I never want you to be in a situation where I'm I'm leading you and you're copying me. I give you the tools so you can lead yourself. That's the caveat to everything I do. And actually, I have a really beautiful example of this because I bumped into a client, I'd say about 2 weeks ago now, and she used to live abroad and she came back last year, had a horrific year. absolutely horrific year. I won't wish it on anyone. And I was heartbroken for her because, so much betrayal, so much heartbreak, and all of the things happened in that time. And we lost contact. And I could just feel intuitively something wasn't right. And then through our mutual connection, I asked after her and found out what happened. And I was, again, reached out, didn't hear anything, which is understandable. And I bumped into her in real life. And it was just the most beautiful experience to see her and just feel her so strong in herself. And she said to me, like, everything she'd moved through. And she said to me, the work that we did was really that strong foundation, to accept help, to navigate the storm, and I'm so proud of her. And this is really the reason I do this work is because life is going to happen. There's always going to be a Scorpio full moon. There's always going to be chaos and someone that triggers an old timeline for you. But when you feel strong and stable in yourself and you can reground yourself, that's it, right? I mean, we can't stop hard things from happening, but we can become the resilient version of ourselves that can handle anything that comes our way. And don't get me wrong, it's frustrating. Like, I am one of these people that in my life I've experienced lots of hardship. And so my resilience is quicker and deeper and stronger than most people because I've had to move through hard things on lots of occasions. But equally, I believe that all of that resilience I've built has been preparing me for so much more abundance, so much more wisdom to share with the women that come into my spaces and the girls that come into my spaces, right? So I feel like nothing is wasted on me. Like everything that I've been through is, yeah, a lesson, a blessing, something to teach, something to give. Is that wisdom that's embodied, and people feel that from me. And so this is why I never want you to feel like what's happened in your life is, a death sentence or a diagnosis. Like everything that we are and everything we've experienced has been the shaping and molding of us. But like your brain has neuroplasticity, you can mold yourself into who you want to be. And that's the beautiful thing, even this project that I've got coming up with my local council. I had a meeting the other day and I was put on the spot to come and stand up. I think I'm going to say there's about 70 people there. There might have been less than that, but it felt like there were 70 people. I'm sure when I get the email, I'll be able to check. But um, I had to get up and talk about this project and why it was important to me. And I'm always myself, right? I tell you this all the time. And so when I stood in that room and I looked around all the people from my local area, I said to them, I walked through my high street the other day, which I rarely do. The last time I was there was like at Christmas time. And the deterioration of that place is wild. It's gotten continuously worse over the years. And right now, more than ever, what we need as a community, as a local area, but as a world as a whole, is more people connecting with each other, more support, more people feeling seen, more people feeling held. And I feel like for me, I have come from a line of addiction, right? I've come from um that kind of struggle, being a woman of color in an area that wasn't culturally diverse, all of those things, knock on effects, knock on effects, knock on effects. But what we need to see is the fact that people can be different. People can make something of themselves. And in these low deprived areas, people need someone they can look up to, someone that shows them, oh, well, they did it, so can I. And I didn't see that growing up, so I knew I had to be it. Like just small decisions I used to make as a girl, knowing that I would have to be a role model someday. Now, that's not your responsibility. I'm just saying that this is my caveat here is that I understand that when we've always seen things be done a certain way, that's so ingrained in us. But what I'm also saying from that is that you can change that at any point. You can choose to do things differently. You can be anything you want to be. And I know that with that comes thinking about, well, how and what would I need to do to get there and all those things. But it's just one foot in front of the other. I am not where I thought I would be at this point in my life. Hands up, right? If you asked me that at 18 years old, I would have done a world tour with Usher and Beyonce, right? That would have been my win. And I would have had two kids by now and I've been married, right? But that's not what the universe wanted for me. And I do believe that the shake-up that I had in my career and me telling my story, telling my journey, even starting the podcast, for example, is all ways of me sharing my knowledge and my experience to hopefully inspire someone else to do something, to help someone else in their life. And I think that it's not about the success and the accolades and the winning. It is also about the journey, right? And all of the things in between are what makes you special, important, needed, and necessary. And so when I'm talking about this death and rebirth moment, when I'm talking about these old cycles and these old timelines that we are closing out and releasing and letting go of, we are also honoring them because they're such an important part of our journey, and they are the stepping stones. They are the bricks that we need to step on in order to keep climbing to get to where we want to be, right? So I hope that this is a reminder that it's all important, and you can't run from it. You have to embrace it. And if you do try and run from it, if you do try and take a shortcut, just keep looping this same circle again. And this is what the Scorpio full moon is saying to you. Break the pattern. You can have what you want if you allow yourself to really lean all the way in through the discomfort. Because after the darkness comes the light every single time. You just have to be brave enough to withstand it. And with that being said, I did do a workshop literally yesterday, and I have the link. It is not via my email sequence. It is just a Zoom link. I don't have the time to put that all together, nor do I have the patience. I've been very relaxed over this weekend, and I want to honor that for myself. So if you want to watch it, the link is in the show notes. I'll recommend you do. And what I will caveat and say is that it's a very vulnerable share. The ladies that were in the space were sharing really personal things that have happened or they've been experiencing over the last few days. So what I'll say with that is obviously in your own discretion, not to share this further or share anyone's personal information. But I do feel like women coming together and sharing their vulnerability is so important. And I want you to hear what they're brave enough to say to inspire you to be brave enough to say it too. And obviously, if you do watch it, let me know what comes up for you. So I'm wishing you a really beautiful week. Happy full moon in Scorpio. We will have another full moon at the end of the month. So we're starting on the full moon and ending on the full moon. What a beautiful portal to be in. Happy Taurus season. And I will speak to you soon. Lots of love. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please do follow and share with a woman that you know needs to hear these words today. The more women that get to listen, the more impact and change and transformation I get to make into this world, and the light in you shines on others. So sharing that forward is absolutely the mission of this. This is how we all give and get and receive the permission to fully shine. I also have some really incredible things happening this year. I'm hosting the second She Rises event in April. So if you want to find out more about that, click the link in the description. And I'm now newly launching my first ever group program that is called Unforgettable. And it's taking you from performing visibility to embodied authority. So whether that's host your own podcast or being on stage or being the leader of your field, and you're ready to fully embody this version of you that has this dream and ambition, that you know the limiting beliefs, the childhood experiences, the generational trauma that has stopped you and prevented you from fully stepping into who you came here to be. This is the space where we get to write a new story, a new chapter in your life. And I'm so excited to hold that space for you. And as always, if you're looking for one-to-one guidance and support, drop me a message, because there's always spaces available for you. I'm sending you so much love.